Hello everyone, welcome to this first edition of GC Mathematics Tips. I'm Blesios Ngwana, and today I would like us to start with some basic concepts. If we consider the expression 2x, like here, we will call this x here the variable and 2 the coefficient. It is very important because if you do not master this, you might get confused when you go studying further. I would equally like us to know the difference between the only noticeable difference between an equation and an expression is the presence of this equality sign. If the equality sign is present, then it becomes an equation. If not, it's an expression only. Now, having learned this, let's learn how to solve some linear equations. If you consider the linear equation 2x plus 4, for simplicity, we might just say that this 4 crossing the equality sign becomes negative. That is, in whatever be the case, if you have a number which crosses the equality sign, the sign on that number changes. And here, if you obtain something like this, you might say dividing through by 2, you obtain x equals to negative 4 and 2, which actually means x equals to negative 2. But for those who would like to really know the theory behind it, actually this negative 4 comes this way because we consider to have added negative 4 to both sides of the equation. Why negative 4? Because negative 4 is the inverse of 4 under addition. And here, when you obtain this in the end, why do we obtain a mere x here and negative 4 divided by 2? It is because we are multiplying through by half. Why half? Because 2 is the coefficient of x, and the inverse of 2 under the operation multiplication is half. This is for people who really like to know the theory behind it, but it is not compulsory. You mustn't always use it if you are solving questions during the GCE exams. And here was a simple case where you will need to bring like terms together. If you have y, because the equation is scattered throughout, you have expressions here with x on this side, other expressions with x on this side of the equation. So you will certainly have to bring all the x's together and all the mere digits the other way. This 4 crossing this way, as we earlier said, this 4, negative 4 will become positive. That's why we have a positive 4 here. And these 2 will equally become negative. That's why we have a negative 2 here. And same here, if this x crosses this way, it becomes positive. Now, here we will have x minus 2, 4 plus 4 minus 2, which is 6, as you can see here. And here we have x plus 2x, which is 4x. So 4x equals to 6. It means x equals to 6 on 4, if you can see, and 6 on 4 is the same as 3 on 2. Having learned all of that, we now enter into simultaneous equations. What are simultaneous equations? When you have a pair of equations, where the values of the two unknowns, it depends on the kind of simultaneous equations. Here it is simultaneous equations with two unknowns. If you have two equations with the values of these two unknowns or two variables the same, then it is a simultaneous equation. That form means that the value of x in this first equation and x in this second equation, they have the same values. There are many ways of solving simultaneous equations, and with time we will get to learn more of them, but for now, for simplicity, we will just study two of them: the substitution method and the elimination method. You can go further researching on maybe the matrix method, the graphical method, and all of that, but for now, let's study the substitution method. When you want to use the substitution method, you look for one of these variables easy to be isolated. For instance, here, if you consider equation 1, it is easy to make either x or y subject of the formula. I decided to make y subject of this formula here by simply taking x the other way. I now substitute the value of y obtained here into the other equation. I do not substitute the value of y back in the same equation I made it for a subject of the formula. It won't work. You will obtain something maybe like 0 equals to 0. So here I'll make y subject of the formula, and I'll call it this equation 3. Y equals to 3 minus x. If I take this y equals to 3 minus x, I substitute into equation 2. I'll have 2x plus 3. Instead of writing y, I write 3 minus x equals to 7. So you have 2x plus 3 times 3 will give you 9. And 3 times negative x will give you negative 3 equals to 7. So here, sorry for the little mix up. So here you have negative x. Why? Because you have 2x, 2 minus 3x. That will give you negative x here. And you have 7 minus 9. Why minus 9? Because 9, as we earlier said, has crossed the side of the equation. So that is why here you have negative x equals to 7 minus 9, which means negative x equals to negative 2. Otherwise, x means equals to 2. You can now take this value of x equals to 2 and substitute it in the other in equation 1 or equation 2, any equation of your choice. So if I take x equals to 2, I know x plus y equals to 3 means 2 plus y equals to 2, which obviously means y equals to 1. And another way of solving is by elimination. How do we solve simultaneous equations by elimination? We look for one of the equations, or we try to make the coefficients of one of the variables in both equations alike. You could either, that means like here, I decided to make the coefficient of x in this first equation to be 2 in such a way that I can subtract both equations and it will give me, and they will cancel out. I could equally make it negative 2, it would still work, but instead of subtracting, I'll have to add. So how do I make the coefficient of x in this first equation 2? I simply have to multiply this first equation by 2. If I multiply this first equation by 2, this is what I obtain. 2x plus 2y equals to 6. And now, this way I am able, if I subtract both of them, then the x part of the equations cancel out, and I'm left with 3y minus 2y, which is y. 7 minus 6 is 1, so y equals to 1. And I do same, I substitute the value of y equals to 1 into any of these equations, and this is what I obtain. So I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope it was of help. These are the simple things we could learn. Please subscribe to my channel so you might have new updates whenever I post again something about mathematics. Thank you for listening.